We often talk about UX as it follows the same rules everywhere, but local reality changed everything. Market maturity, education, access to global clients, and the structure of tech industry itself. Today, I'm speaking with Niushan, a product design leader based in Kathmandu, Nepal, to understand how these forces shape design there.
I was starting as a front-end developer. So it was not for me the developer things. I switched to product design.
Is UX driven by product thinking or outsourcing pipelines?
I've given the problem, I have given you the what you need to do, and you need to do directly from the UI perspective of.
Are designers specialists or generalists by necessity?
So they must be a jack of all trade. That will be, I think, the perfect sentence. If I'm a UX designer, I can have a background in DevOps. If I'm a UX designer, I can have a background in graphic design.
And how are remote work and AI changing expectations in that market? This is a practical conversation about how UX works in Nepal today. Let's look at it from the inside. Niushan, thanks for taking the time. And to begin,
Thank you for inviting me.
Could you tell me a bit more about your journey into UX and what are you currently working on?
I was starting as a front-end developer. I guess the React was started, the React.js. So from there, I started my career as a developer, front-end developer, and worked on the HTML, CSS, JS, and like trying to figure out the logic behind the software ecosystem. And I learned that it was just like the beginning of UX in Nepal. So I have heard the term user experience. So it like thinking me out like what is user experience. So I just have to research about it. So like very less people was doing that on the product design side of things. So I just got familiar with that, and I really loved about like say the product ecosystem, like how the design is being, like what can we do with the designs, what it is for, like understanding the business side of things, understanding the product side of things. From there, that let's say my curiosity grows, and I just worked as a UX designer in the same company. So just switched career from front end developer to UX designer, and yeah, from there I started my UX journey. Let's say so it's been almost about 7 years plus, yeah, working as a product designer in different multinational companies here in Nepal also, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it is interesting, you combine UX with front-end development.
Yeah.
It is interesting. Is it your personal path or it's common in Nepal or for designers to be more technical,
Not too much common, like let's say in our let's talk about the back in like 10 years back. So it was like the full stack web designer, like I think you also know that. So there is only one web designer who does the front end, who does the design things, who also do the back end. So from that background I started my career. So it was not a specialized let's say one technical thing. So they must be like let's say jack of all trade. Let's say that will be, I think, the perfect sentence. So most people know in Nepal, they want to learn everything, like from starting business, knowing what to do, and like they are figuring out. So I was also figuring out mostly. So I have also done most of the things like the front end, back end. So most of the people come from that expertise, let's say. So in Nepal, so they now right now as we talk, so they are now specializing in different things, but they have already a background in some kind of technical things. Let's say if I'm a UX designer, I can have a background in DevOps. If I am a UX designer, I can have a background in graphic design. So it's common, let's say, not a unique one. It's common in Nepal.
It is
Yeah,
interesting.
exactly.
What did you make you move to that direction with the design?
Honestly speaking, it was like, let's say, I don't like working on the back. So it's like a developer thing. Like they want to have a communicating in a small team. So I want to grow as professionally also and personality wise also. So that was my thing. So I was just fed up doing the developing things, and also the logic, the math behind it, so really frustrates me on the development side. So I think I'm not good at that kind of things, so developing things, but also planning and also like creating a blueprint like we do on designs, and talking to stakeholders, talking to users. I knew like while developing things, so it was not for me the developer things. So that's the point. I switched to product design. So I think that's the passion, let's say.
By the way, do companies in Nepal usually expect designers to understand code?
In Nepal, like let's say in Nepalese companies, they want you to do all the things: the graphic design, the animation things, the motion graphics, even the coding, even the backend. So yeah, everything, the marketing, the everything. Because right now, I think most companies understand what UX designer, what product designer, what UI designer does. Back in 5 years, they don't know what. They understand the graphic design is the UX design. the product design means the front end development. So there was really misconception on that. So that was also a challenge for me, like let's say product designer, also the different people from the UX background. So they have been challenged by different companies, like what did you do, like that kind of things. When you do the research, why are you doing that kind of things? You must create a icon, let's say, you must create a graphics. So there's a lot of challenging things, but I guess due to outsourcing and due to, let's say, MNC's companies, so multinational companies entering into Nepal, so that background has been changed a lot. And now people are talking about UX design, product design, design process, design thinking. So yeah, from that perspective, I guess now it's the UX ecosystem in Nepal right now. So it's emerging. I'm not saying completely developed, but it's emerging, let's say.
Yeah, I understand that you can't speak for everyone, so feel free to answer from your own experience and observations in your circle.
Yeah, seriously.
Let me get back and start with a bigger picture. I know I asked you about the UX personality before. If the Nepal UX market, were a personality,
Sure.
how would you describe it today? Yeah.
So I think it's one of the most interesting question, like the one have asked to me. So I didn't get that kind of questions like, let's say, what kind of personality do you have, like the kind of, we know personal things, but as a UX, I never answered that. But I was thinking about your question and really thought that the Nepal, let's say, talking about the personality things, if he's a person, so it's a shy, it's a curious and raw talent, let's say. So in shy in words, like let's say in Nepal, it's it's developing phase in UX. So people are trying to understand what is UX, what is product design. So also the designers are, let's say, a little bit shy to talk about designs, to challenge founder, the CEOs, the project manager, the developer, and curious in a sense, like it's now the global, let's say, remote companies are appearing in Nepal. So they have to be competitive also, and they have to be ahead of the game to stay in AI world. So yeah, let's talk about, I've also already said, let's say shy, curious and raw talent. I think that matches the personality of UX in Nepal.
Interesting. Yeah. And you mentioned companies in Nepal.
Yeah.
Would you say UX designers work more in startups, agencies, outsourcing, or?
So yeah, mostly it's like outsourcing companies. So let's say one to come, let's say 10, 15 companies come to Nepal from international background. They open the office in Nepal. They hire the developer, designers, and they work for outsourcing project. Let's say the service one, the product. Let's say the product company exists here, but very few. Only, let's say, we can count in a hand. Let's say 8, 19. So that's the market right now. But the outsourcing companies, I think, because of the cheap labor, let's say from the US, from other countries, so Nepal is very cheap, even from the our neighboring countries, India. So that's why I think mostly international companies are coming to Nepal, and because of cheap labor and also the talented people, let's say, they can do the work in half of the price. Let's say even the 10% of the what the developer they are paying in US. So I think that's the main reason. Also, the international market is entering into Nepal from the software perspective, and mostly I will say outsourcing companies. So people work on here.
When you talk
Yeah.
to other designers in Nepal, what do they usually struggle with?
So in terms of hiring process, is like a project manager. There will be a founder. There will be CEO. There will be very less designers in a company right now. If there were 4, 5 designers, then there's the senior lead designer will interview you. But in terms of Nepal, let's say the project manager mostly do, yeah. So they understand only the project basis. They don't understand the design kind of things. And but in very less companies, there are also most of the designers. So they talk about different resource things, design things, communication skills. I would say mostly the challenging part is like the communication skill. So it is mostly because of the English language also, because we need to deal with the international clients. And after that, I would say design thinking, because most designers struggle with UI, not no UX, sorry. The UI, they only focus on the UI side of things, like how to make it beautify, how to make, let's say, the signing button, like that kind of things. So I think that's the challenge for the designers in Nepal, and they need to learn that skill. This at first, I would say communication skill and the design thinking, and also the business understanding. So yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Now let's zoom in a bit and talk about how work actually happens day to day.
So it's like mostly, let's say they would have a like a Jira like a system, like ticketing system and a project description system. It's like Jira, Trello. So they will mostly get a description, project requirement, let's say PRD, project requirement document from the project manager, CEO, founder. It's typically depend on the companies or the agencies. So after that, they will just research that. Not say research, they just read about the description and they directly jump to UI because that's the expectation of the most of the companies. I've given the problem, I have given you the like what you need to do, and you need to do directly from the UI perspective. They will not do any research, so they will not get time because let's say the deadline will be very tight. If you have given the PRE document today, you need to submit it within 2 3 days for also the small features. So basically, let's say talk about a day of mid level, they will just read the brief, design the fast iterations from sketch, from wireframe. Even in some cases, they don't even get to do the sketch and wireframe. They directly jump to the prototype, IFLE prototype, because that's what the ecosystem in Nepal is there. Because they want to ship the product fast without any research, because very limited research. Only if there is international works, international clients are involved, then they prefer research work. But in Nepal, they only know about the UI kind of things, so they just need the UI fast. And after that, they complete the prototype and they talk to the developers, and developer handoff will be there, and that's it. So most companies in Nepal do that. So there is very little bit of research.
The most common situation, designers usually work from briefs rather than talk to directly to users or do research, right?
That's the problem.
Yeah. By the way, as for the businesses, who typically make the final decision in product discussions?
Mostly the founder and CEO in Nepal, because they are the top, and we directly talk to the, let's say, the main person in the companies, in Nepalese companies, not about the international company because they have the, let's say, hierarchy. But in Nepal, we directly talk about to the founder, CEO, the project manager, the director. So they are the, let's say, the main people in the product decision, which makes sense also and doesn't make sense also. Because if founder knows the product decision side of things, product design, then that's completely okay. But most of the founders, they only look from the business perspective, not the user perspective. So I think that is the problem. So there should be a decision based on the data, based on the past history. So that kind of decision rarely happens. So it's like a one man army. If the founder and CEO or the project manager says, you need to do that. But if the designer is very experienced, so they can, let's say, cope up with the data, like this can be done, they can suggest that. That's
It's
the thing.
quite common situation, like founders and CEOs, they just think, will it bring money? And yeah, that will determine whether you should go for your design solutions or not. Yeah. Now that we understand the daily reality, let's talk a bit about influence and growth. Let me ask, do you feel designers in Nepal get involved early in design problems or mostly later when solutions are already decided?
Honestly, it depends completely on the companies, but most of the companies and organization in Nepal, they just already researched and requirements has been done. And I also talked about the PRD things. So I can honestly say that mostly late. So designers are called after the requirements have been set, or after the, let's say, what they need to do. But it's completely depend on the company, not all the companies. Yeah, most of the companies.
By the way, you also had exposure outside Nepal. You worked with United Kingdom and United States teams before. And when you compare those environments with Nepal, what differences stand out? I mean, is it more about structure, expectations, confidence, or something else?
So yeah, it's completely different. It's like comparing stone with the gold, let's say. So it's completely different in abroad or in remote work or working with international companies. But also it depends on international companies also. So I have worked with different companies in the abroad. Some of are like really focused on the user experience. They want research work. They want why this design works, why this design doesn't work, what is good design, what is bad design, that kind of stuff. But there are also some companies, they just want the UI. So it depends on the companies, but mostly I have been working with the, let's say, in the companies in the UK, US, also Canada, also Japan also, yeah. So it's completely different on different ecosystem, their culture also, and like their way of thinking from their perspective. So it's a lot of difference we get in abroad. You can see the UX case studies, you can get a lot of time of research to do research, to understand the problem, like to also ability to also explain the decisions, like they give time, they also let's say focus more on soft skills rather than hard skills, because they think that the soft skills can make designer more hard because of the communication skills, presentation skills. But in Nepal, they don't like to like say they see the presentation, see the research works, talking about different works, comparing the designs. They directly want like let's say 1 plus 1 equal to 2, then yeah, that's it. So they don't want any creativity, like 1 plus 1 can be done differently, that kind of things. So yeah, that majorly difference. Talking about like research, in Nepal we lag on completely on research, but in outside world, or let's say on the remote side of things, or let's say on the international clients, so they debate on the resource data. And in Nepal we completely talk in the founders problem, or let's say from the business perspective rather than the user perspective, because they want at the end of the day that needs to work. They don't care about like why it needs to work, will my user understand. So that comes after, let's say, the product go in the market, and after different failures, if users customers complain, then only we'll do, then we'll not do. So yeah, I think that's the major difference.
Let's shift slightly towards the hiring and remote work again. Let me ask you, if you were hiring tomorrow, what would
Yeah,
you make you say this person is strong?
talking about from the lead designer, I have been hiring most of the people also in past few years. So mostly I see, let's say, people focused more in Nepal, also in, let's say, on international work also, let's say in the US, Canada, in other countries also, mostly junior, mid-level, or even senior. So they mostly focused on the UI. They think that UI can impress, let's say, the designers or the hiring person or the HR, let's say, those who is hiring. So they will clearly do the fancy UI prototype, like make the animation things, make the shiny, make the card things. So I think that I don't look on that on the only in the UI, the fancy UI. I look basically what person has done to solve the, let's say, the UI, the UX kind of things, their problem solving ability first, and their ability to explain the decisions, like why they did that, what is the reason behind that. Let's say if they have used the secondary button, why they have used that, or let's say they have used the AI chatbot, why they need the AI chatbot, what is the reason behind it. So that kind of things I mostly look. And if that things all matches, and we do the set of interviews talking about their soft skills, presentation skills, and yeah,
By the way, has remote work changed expectations for designers in Nepal?
I think it's lot of changing environment, because we need to compete globally, because quality expectation has been also higher. And also I think it has opened a lot of opportunities, because we can work from anywhere because of the remote work. Even I can go to different parts of the city, or different, let's say, different country also, that doesn't matter now. I need to just deliver, give the quality work. And also it has created lots of, let's say, competition, because of the competing globally, because we need to, let's say, understand everything. And also the AI side of things also have been evolved. So yeah, it's on in one word, let's say, it has changed a lot.
Now let's look a bit ahead. Are designers around you using AI tools daily, or is it still experimental?
I think it's mostly experimental, because of we need international debit card to subscribe the premium version of, let's say, AI tools. So mostly in Nepal, they only used free tools, so they have some limitation also. So they just have some kind of, let's say, experimental in the content ideas, in workflows, in UI inspiration. They directly not have been, let's say, attached to the daily, let's say, UI works or the research works. But also like the company provides in Nepal because of the international client. So in that company, I guess they have been a part of the, let's say, workflow research. So those who use, let's say, the example ChatGPT premium version, or say the cloud, or say the Figma make also. So that kind of things, I guess, some designers use because of the international exposure. Yeah, but mostly I guess it's just experimental.
And before we wrap up, I want to touch on culture and identity. Yeah, let me ask you, what is something outsiders misunderstand about the Nepal market?
So it's like the I already like I also said that the because of the cheap labor, so mostly they are attracted because of the money cost things. and they think that with low cost they can just outsource. But in reality, Nepal designers are very talented. They can, let's say, compete in the international market. They just lack the product exposure. So from that perspective, I guess Nepal has talent, very good talent. And through IXTF also, I got to lot to know about, like, how to, let's say, motivate, how to educate on UX, why UX is necessary. So yeah, mostly because I think the outside world think that Nepal is a very cheap labor, and we can get very cheap things. And I think they also think that cheap price, let's say, comes with cheap quality, but that's not the, let's say, reality. So Nepal designers are very talented, they just lack on the international market. So yeah, I think what it's the outsider things like that.
Let's finish with a quick lightning round. First thoughts, short answers. Are you ready?
Yes, yeah.
No. One thing designers here lack most.
So yeah, I think the real user experience process,
One thing they overfocus on.
the UI.
One thing that frustrates you in your UX ecosystem.
So it's like misunderstanding about the design.
And one thing that makes you optimistic.
I think the young designers eager to learn.
And let me ask you the final question. If someone wanted to
Yes.
collaborate with designers or teams in Nepal, what should they understand first?
I think they must understand about, let's say, the culture of the Nepalese people, how they work, like what kind of design thinking they understand, what kind of ecosystem they have been. So yeah, I think that kind of things people need to understand it first before working with any Nepalese, because we are mostly the humble people, know everything, but we, let's say, don't over explain that kind of things. So yeah.
This was incredibly insightful. Thank you, Niushan. That was my conversation with Niushan about UX in Nepal. What stood out to me is this. Design talent is strong, but much of the work still comes through outsourcing, which means design often starts from briefs rather than product discovery. And decisions are often founder-led, with validation happening after launch. At the same time, remote work is rapidly raising expectations and connecting local designers to the global product ecosystem. Every market has its own constraints and its own advantages. In the next episodes, I'll continue exploring how design really works across different countries. If you found this valuable, tell me which country we should explore next. See you in the next conversation.